What is up, everybody? It is Kara Christensen here with Behind the Layers. Looks like I am in the movie Back to the Future, where he starts fading in and out. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie. Great movie. But happy Thanksgiving. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving and had all their fills of all the yummies, all the good stuff, and ready to move on to the next level. Today is going to be a very long but very informative and juicy topic. We are going to dive into how to get your healthy sex life back, how to get your healthy mental stability back, and how you can melt weight and rebalance your body, healing your body all at the same time, without extra money, without any shots, without any pills. You guys know what time it is. Welcome to Behind the Layers with Kara Christensen. I am going to dive in because it's going to be such a long topic. And yes, hopefully we can get this going. Thank you guys for joining. Hi, good to see you guys. Thank you for being here. I am going to switch over and be able to pull this up for you guys. Give me 1 second. I hope that you guys are very, very excited about this topic as I am. It is such a good topic, one that I am hold near and dear to my heart. So while I get this switched over, let me put this up right here and get it back to the beginning. I'm going to go blurry for a second as I get this queued up for you guys. This is, this doctor, Dr. Mendy. She has written so many books on this topic. So I definitely want to give her her shine because she has been instrumental in this whole thing that I'm talking about. Let me go over here. So why is it doing that? Let's just see here. There we go. Now I'm on it. Now I got it, y'all. Now I got it. Okay.
Feminist women out there are not going to.
Okay, I don't even know why she starts with that.
Women are perishing in this modern world more than men.
Well, that's terrifying.
If we want to exist on this planet, we're going to have to.
Dr. Mindy Pelt,
renowned functional health expert,
That's how you
and keynote speaker, one of the leading voices in educating us about our bodies.
spending 2 decades helping millions worldwide.
You got pretty famous from talking about this certain subject matter, which is fasting. What do I need to know?
Research shows it's going to make me stronger. More lean, 1,300% increase in testosterone in men.
Oh, wow.
We see inflammation go down, growth hormone go up. It's the hormone that keeps you young and helps you burn fat. You know where it dropped the most amount of weight?
Belly.
Yep. Literally takes cells that are turning into cancer and it gets rid of those. You are tapping into a healing state that you never knew was there.
I'm sold. Where do I start?
So the first place to start is
menstruation, or the big M, is considered a taboo topic.
I'm going to say something which is really embarrassing here. I know nothing about menstrual cycles. I'm in a relationship. What advice have you got for me?
well, the first is, do you know her cycle?
Moving on. Tell me about your childhood.
Let me give you gold. First 2 days, give her some space. If you have any conflict you want to resolve with her, do it between day 2 and day 12. Her libido is going to be the highest between day 10 and day 15. And then here's the gold. You're going to have to report back to me how this works. Around day 17, this is where you got to...
Once in a while on this podcast, I have a conversation that I desperately wish I'd had sooner. This is one of those conversations. I'd heard about fasting, but I had no idea No idea at all of its potentially life-changing impact. Weight loss, your sex life, a woman's menstrual cycle, how to heal from illness and injury, the incredible power of fasting. I'm incredibly happy that you chose to listen to this particular conversation, because if you're like me and you've never really taken the time to understand fasting and you don't understand the 6 types of fasting, then maybe this is the conversation you've always needed to hear, because it certainly was for me. You are really, really going to enjoy this one. Take my word for it.
You guys know I'm always talking about this. So this came across my desk and I literally
Mindy,
was like, holy cow, this is
if you
right up my
took
alley.
the full body of work that you've produced over the last, let's say, 10 years, and the work that you're going to produce over the next 10 years, and you had to summarize the mission that you're on and why it matters, how would you do that?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm trying to empower people to believe in themselves again. And I want to do that through everything that in our lifestyle that taps into our body's own ability to heal itself. We have gotten so far off course. We don't even realize that we're giving so much of our health power away, our happiness power away. And all we've got to do is come back home to ourselves and learn that every single thing inside of us, every cell, every neuron, everything is working for us, not against us. And we have to stop villainizing our body. We got to figure out how to believe in ourselves again. We're the ones that are going to save ourselves. And we've just lost our way.
What have we fallen into the trap of believing?
Well, in the health world, we've totally fallen into the trap that if I take this pill, if I do this diet, if I do this exercise, then that will cure me. Nobody cures you. You cure yourself. And so you have to start to look at the human body as this self-healing organism that's always figuring out how to keep you alive, how to keep you at your best. And if you're not feeling at your best, then the only thing to look at is that there's an interference. There's a physical, emotional, spiritual, chemical interference that is pulling you away from this power that's inside of you so that you can start to heal. Once you pull those away, you see yourself in a whole new light. I mean, this is what fasting did for millions of people. You just see yourself so differently in what you're capable of doing.
Where have we gone wrong in terms of our attitude towards what it is to be a human? Because, I often think much of the health advice that is thrown at us these days has this underlying belief that, like, in some way we're broken.
Yeah. Oh my, I so agree with you. It's the messaging is like, you did something wrong. You have a genetic profile that you're doomed to have a disastrous outcome. And everything is exogenously blamed at us. And I really think that comes from not only our healthcare system, and I'm not trying to bash the healthcare system, but we have lost our way. And it comes from, for women specifically, it comes from the messaging we get from, social media and magazines. Like, everything is outside in. We got to go inside out now and start asking what we want on a physical, spiritual, emotional level so that we can create the life we want and stop looking outside for the answers. We got to go within.
What's my motto? From the inside out.
Inside out
right?
living.
You got pretty famous from talking about this certain subject matter, which is fasting.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about fasting because I've heard about it, and I'm sure here I represent a lot of my audience right now. I've heard the term fasting. I've heard loads of people in recent times over the last, I'd say, 2 years, get really excited about it and say that it's a good thing.
Yep.
But that's really the extent of my knowledge on the subject. So let's just start right there. I mean, you wrote a book called Fast Like a Girl. You've got so much content out on the internet about fasting for both men and women. This book was written in 2022. Why? Why are you so focused on fasting? Why do I need to care about it? What's it going to do for me?
It's the quickest antidote to what we just said. If we've got all this physical, emotional, chemical stress coming at us, we've got taste buds we've got to change, we've got behaviors we have to change, there's a lot there. But I can show you how to compress your eating window into a 10-hour eating window, leaving 14 hours for fasting, something as simple as 14 hours. And I can show you how you can start to heal yourself without money, without time. You are literally tapping into a healing state that you never knew was there. And I think part of why we've had so many people pour onto YouTube and so many women gravitate to the book is that it's so, once you learn how to fast, you start to see your body in this whole new way. It can absolutely heal itself. So for me, fasting became this incredible tool that everybody could do. And we just had to learn how to do it. The women that I'm watching that are just dropping, I mean, men and women, hundreds of pounds, and medications they're getting off of, and mental health that's coming back just because I taught them how to compress their eating window and leave a longer time for rest so their body can repair. That is all, each individual is doing that. I didn't do that.
I'm the type of person that very much needs like stats to believe things. I'm one of those people. And once I've got the stats or some kind of like scientific evidence, then I'm all in.
Beautiful.
What do I need to know from a scientific standpoint? What research has been done on fasting?
Okay, so let's go through the basic principle of fasting, and I think this will help everybody, is that you have two metabolisms. So you burn energy when you eat, and you burn energy when you don't eat. But they're two different mechanisms. So when you eat, like, let's use myself as an example. I had eggs and some avocado for like around 11 o'clock today. So that's going to bring my blood sugar up. Now, as my blood sugar starts to drop, what's going to happen is my body's going to switch over into this other energy system. And I call this the fat burning energy system. I call this one the sugar burner energy system. When it switches over into this fat burning energy system, it starts to make a byproduct called a ketone. And that ketone will go up into the brain, and it starts to repair your brain. And what most people don't realize is your brain needs 50% ketones, 50% glucose. So you're giving a fuel source to your brain that it desperately needs, which is why people, when they fast, are like, their mental clarity goes up, their cognition improves, their brain fog goes away, because you're literally giving a fuel source to your brain that it may never have been given before. It takes about somewhere between 8 hours to metabolically switch over into this fat burning place.
Okay. So if I'm doing a podcast and I want to be sharp,
Yes.
I shouldn't eat 8 hours before.
Yes.
Fuck. Could you come back in 7 hours?
7 hours? Yeah, sure. I should have given you the memo before we got here. Yeah, so I think of it like a hybrid.
Because if you're like, okay, so people that have issues with paying attention, focusing, staying on task, and you know that your workday is filled with all of those things that you need to use a mental focus on, that's a great way to navigate your eating schedule. Let's say when you go into work and you fasted all night, right? Because you're sleeping, so you're not eating while you're sleeping. So you eat a solid 8 hours, which is great. And then you don't eat breakfast. And then you go into your day and tackle all of those tasks that need your full focus, attention, that you might need to multitask and be as sharp and on point and focused as possible. Maybe you just hold off on your eating for that breakfast area so you can tackle all of those things before you put the food into your body to where it has to slow down your cognitive thinking. And it really does. Once you do fasting and you learn about how you pay attention to your body and how it affects your body, and not just your body, but your mind and just how your body operates in general, your thinking, your clarity, just all of it, your mental status, like how good it makes you feel, you really start to focus. You really start to pay attention to how well you're able to focus without even trying. So it really is something of an amazing wonder when you actually allow yourself to get to that space. So that's interesting that she said you need at least 8 hours. So that's where we're at right now. So we need at least 8 hours of fasting to be on your sharpest, which is not a lot of time at all. It's not a week, it's not a day. It's only 8 hours to be on your fastest and sharpest mental clarity. That's really cool.
Hybrid car. You know, you switch over.
Back it up.
Somewhere between 8 hours to metabolically switch over into this fat burning place.
Okay. So if I'm doing a podcast and I want to be sharp,
Yes.
I shouldn't eat 8 hours before.
Yes.
Fuck. Did you come back in 7 hours?
7 hours? Yeah, sure. I should have given you the memo before we got here. Yeah, so I think of it like a hybrid car. You know, you switch over into this fat burning place. So at 8 hours, you start to make the switch. By about 12 hours, your body's now starting to make a good dose of ketones. The brain is excited, so you're getting that mental clarity. Ketones turn off the hunger hormone. Mm-hmm. So you also, when you switch over, there's going to be a point in which you're not hungry. And that all happens at about 12 hours. But you're also, if you stay there a little longer, if you stay there and you go 14 hours, 15 hours. So check this out. Research shows at 15 hours, we see growth hormone go up. Okay, growth hormone is the hormone that keeps you young and helps you burn fat. We also see in men 1,300% increase in testosterone just from somewhere between a 13 to 15 hour fast. 13% increase in natural testosterone stores. And we can explain why that happens in a moment. And then we start to see inflammation go down. So all of a sudden, if you have people who have like joints that are hurting, they start doing 15 hours of fasting every day and they're like, God, you know, my joints just don't have that same stiffness in them anymore. But if you stay in that fasted window, you keep going 17 hours, your brilliant body turns within and it goes, wait a second, no food's coming in. We better get stronger. So it literally takes the bad cells, the cells that are slowing you down, the cells that are turning into cancer, and it gets rid of those. They're called senescent cells. And it literally recycles them out of your system, and it goes into the cells that are still usable, and it makes them stronger. It fixes the inner cellular parts. We call that autophagy. And that actually was if you want stats, the Nobel Prize in 2015.
Okay, so let's break that down real fast. Okay, so going 15 hours of fasting. So let's just say you fasted for the 8 hours that you slept, right? And so you're just adding, let's say you skip breakfast. Let's say you don't eat until lunch. Because you did that, because you were able to, obviously you're not eating while you're sleeping, and you're not going to start your first meal until lunch. It's that simple. Just from making that little change in your life, now you've increased, for men, you've increased your testosterone by 1,300, a level 1,300, which is 13%. Anybody that has inflammation with, their joints, they've got arthritis, or they've got any kind of, issues with bending in their joints or knees or elbows, whatever, all the joints. Now that's subsiding. Now you're having cancer cell rejuvenation, which means the cells that were turning cancerous are now recycled, and they're put into the good cells that we still have, strengthening our good cells and recycled from becoming bad cells that are creating cancer in your body. Just from making that small tweak in your life. No shots, no pills, no more prescriptions, no actually saving food, because now you're not eating breakfast and snack and all that stuff in the middle. That's it. Like, this is studied and tried and true time and time again, the research that she's saying. So please listen up, you guys. This is like so incredible what she's talking about. Let's dive back in.
By a Japanese hours, your brilliant body turns. Joints just don't have that same stiffness in them anymore. But if you stay in that fasted window, you keep going 17 hours, your brilliant body turns within and it goes, wait a second, no food's coming in. We better get stronger. So it literally takes the bad cells, the cells that are slowing you down, the cells that are turning into cancer, and it gets rid of those. They're called senescent cells. And it literally recycles them out of your system, and it goes into the cells that are still usable, and it makes them stronger. It fixes the inner cellular parts. We call that autophagy. And that actually was if you want stats, the Nobel Prize in 2015 by a Japanese scientist, Dr. Osumi. He won the Nobel Prize in medicine and physiology for this term called autophagy. And that's when you go without food, your cells will heal themselves.
I mean,
that was back in 2015.
So I want to go into all of that. I want to start with why. Why does why does fasting help so much? And really, like, what I'm getting at there is, if the effects of this are so profound in so many ways, then where did we go wrong? Because from what I, have been told, breakfast,
why
lunch,
aren't we
dinner,
all doing that? Yeah.
breakfast, lunch,
Why
dinner,
are we pushed?
and then maybe,
breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
dessert.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
that's the narrative that I was brought up on.
Yeah. Well, breakfast is the most important meal. Research on that phrase. Do you know where it came from?
No.
It was actually, and I don't mean to diss any companies out there, but it was a tagline that they came up with for cornflakes, for Kellogg's cornflakes back in the 1970s. They needed a tagline that made people eat cornflakes in the morning. And so they came up with cornflakes. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
That wasn't,
and that has continued until this day.
Wow.
I can't find any research, and many other fasting experts, many other blood sugar experts will tell you the same thing. There's just no research showing that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So that became a myth that we need to bust. Second myth we've been taught is you can speed your metabolism up the more you eat. 6 meals a day. Remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also a myth.
We did that when
there
we
is
were
no
training.
evidence that the more you eat, the faster your metabolism will be. If you want a faster metabolism, you need to know how to metabolically switch. You need to know how to go from sugar burner to fat burner. And that's where you start to lose weight.
That's what I want to know.
That's the other myth that I feel like we have to break apart. And then we have this, I can tell you as a mother, and this is not
so
for anybody to have
fascinating.
mommy guilt, but what we do as parents is we have certain statements we make to our kids, like, dinner's being served, the kitchen's closing in an hour. You need to eat lunch, you need to eat breakfast. Like, we are programmed when to eat by a clock, not by our own internal sense.
Hey, babe.
So kids are raised to eat according to a clock, not according to when they want to eat. We don't say, am I hungry right now?
No, that's so true. We all wait until 1 p.m. to have lunch.
Right.
And the morning we wake up, we feel like we have to have breakfast or we're doing something wrong.
Yep.
And then dinner time, anytime
It's
between
like
6 and 8, we
program.
have to sit down and eat again,
want to
or we're
keep it
doing
safe.
something wrong.
Yep. If you just unwind that,
Yeah, where did that come
you
from?
guys?
right?
Look
Usually
around
from your
you.
parents, and it came from a schedule.
What did my ancestors do before my parents existed and the schedules existed?
I
Right.
can tell you exactly what they did.
What did they do?
They came out of the cave. I'm going to go back to our primal friends.
Let's
Go
do
back
it.
to our cave friends.
Let's do it.
They came out of a cave. They didn't have a refrigerator. They didn't have a pantry. They didn't have DoorDash. They had to go find food.
Did they have Uber Eats?
They didn't have Uber Eats.
Delivery?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't have Uber Eats. But what they did is they came out of the cave and they went to go hunt food. Sometimes they could make a kill really easily and bring it home, and they would feast. Sometimes the kill wasn't as easy and they had to go far to find an animal to kill.
Exercise.
But what did they do when they had to go super far and they couldn't get food? They switched over into this ketogenic energy system. And that ketogenic energy system supercharged them, because every cell in the human body is the number one priority of our cells is survival. So we were built to make sure we could stay alive in the absence of food. So their ketones kicked in. And when ketones kicked in, they became mentally very focused so they could go find food. They were able to stay calm. Ketones will affect a neurotransmitter called GABA and cause GABA to come on so you feel calm, you're focused. Ketones will power up your muscles so that all of a sudden you have this incredible muscular energy, all because they were meant to go find food so they can bring it home.
Okay, so the body, which is orientated towards survival, when you hadn't eaten, it invests a lot of its sort of resources in your brain to increase the chances that you'll catch something to eat. So that's why when I fast or when I haven't eaten, I'm very focused, I'm very articulate.
That's
it
right.
seems, and I perform at my best.
Bingo. That's it.
Makes sense.
And then what did they do when they got a kill? They came home and they feasted. They didn't necessarily ration it out. They ate, and then they divvied it up amongst the tribe, and then they went out again until when the food was gone, maybe a couple days, maybe they'd feast for a couple days. When the food was gone, they'd go out again. It's called feast famine cycling. It is how humans were meant to live. The challenge we have is we have access to food all the time. That we are, feasting has taken on a really negative connotation because we're feasting on the wrong foods. But if we could go back and just be like our primal friends, and we could learn how to go in and out of this feast famine cycling, using fasting as a tool for performance, for healing, and using food in the proper way and eating the right food so that our brains will work well. And there's a whole hormonal pack or sense of food that can help support hormones. If we're really conscious about the quality of the food that we eat, we're now mimicking what our primal ancestors were doing.
Does that also imply that we should exercise fasted? Because I was thinking about my ancestors, they would have been doing the most physical activity when they hadn't eaten yet.
That's right. Yeah.
They would have been doing the most physical activity right before they ate.
Yeah. So really interesting point, and you and I were talking about this in the beginning, is that when you exercise in a fasted state, you're going to get rid of the glucose that's been stored in your muscles. So as that glucose comes out, because your body needs it to go, you don't work 100% off of ketones and 100% off of glucose. You're needing both of them at different moments of your day. So when you're exercising in a fasted state, you're getting ketones and your muscles are releasing stored sugar, which is great for anybody who wants to lose weight because now you can lean out those muscles. Now let's go back to what our primal ancestors did. When they came home, they ate meat, they ate protein, and they stimulated something called mTOR. mTOR is when you actually create muscle growth. And what we now know is it takes about 30 grams of protein to trigger these amino acid receptor sites in the muscles to cause them to grow stronger. So for you, if you work out in a fasted state, you're going to release all those stores. You're going to have those ketones for performance, but then you want to follow that up with protein so you can build your muscles strong. And that is a hack that has worked incredibly well for so many people.
Okay.
Ooh.
Historically, people have thought that fasting is a one-size-kind-of-fits-all technique, and there's one kind of fasting, which is you just, I don't know, you might just not eat for a prolonged period of time. But in your
Okay, real fast. Breaking that part down real quick for those of you that just chimed in and I have missed that part. So it's called a feast famine cycle. That's the cycle that you want to try and get on, a feast famine cycle. So when you are eating, you're eating high proteins, like she said, to get your muscles to even grow when you're working out, or if whatever you're doing in your day that utilizes your muscles. If when you eat, you're eating healthy, big, filling protein sessions. So you're eating more protein, and whatever else it is that you're eating, eat that without having all the fillers. They're saying like things that aren't, processed or made in factory. So eat big helpings of it though, because that is the feast part. And then your famine is going to go into your fasting part. So you're eating maybe for 1-2 days, you're just feasting on proteins, vegetables, fruits, whatever you want to have. And then you're going into a fasting status of, maybe shrinking your window down and only having that one meal or 2 meals. Doing what I like to do is 2-1-none, 2-1-none. That kind of thing keeps your metabolism in its full essence and keeping you in the feast famine cycle, which is what I started with the 15-day getting healthy kickstart. So that's always something great to wean your body and get your body headed into that direction of the 2-1-none, and then possibly going just to a 1-none, 1-none, 1-none. So those are, or one instead of doing 2 huge meals, you're doing 1 big meal and maybe like a half, like a salad with some protein on it or something like that. But, this is very interesting. I've never heard it called the feast famine cycle, so I'm very interested to look up more of that and to learn that specifically 30 grams of protein is what your muscles need to be in its ultimate muscle building. So if you're trying to put muscle on, having at least 30 grams of protein to actually amp up that muscle growth in real time while your muscle is in that recovery state, 30 grams of protein. So that's something really good to commit to memory if you're trying to be in that space. let's continue on. I'm going to back it up.
Book and throughout your work. Okay. Historically, people have thought that fasting is a one size kind of fits all technique, and there's one kind of fasting, which is you just, I don't know, you might just not eat for a prolonged period of time. But in your book and throughout your work, you describe these 6 different types of fasting.
Yeah.
What are the 6 types of fasting? And tell me what the difference is in outcome and benefit.
Yeah, it's a great question. So again, fasting is when we switch over.
Yeah.
So now we're in the fat burning place. At about 13 to 15 hours, we start making ketones. This is intermittent fasting. That's pretty much what most people, when they say they're intermittent fasting, that's what they're doing.
Okay, they take 12 to 16 hours.
Yeah. They're making ketones, testosterone's going up, inflammation's coming down, hunger might be going away. They're kind of having this, a lot of people lose weight with that. It's kind of the most common fast.
Does it matter from the window? Does it matter what time I start and what time I end?
You get to choose. You choose what that window should be.
So I could eat at 3 a.m.?
You could. There's a whole nother level we can talk about why you don't want to eat in the dark.
What's an ideal window?
I really like, it depends on the time of the year, but in the summer, I really like somewhere, if you're going to do an 8-hour eating window, like 11 to 7 in the summer. And then in the winter, because it's darker earlier, you would do more like a 10 to 5 kind of eating window.
It's not so hard to do 11 to 7.
Right? Not hard at all.
Not hard at all. That's not fasting. That's just a slight.
That's so
having a
interesting.
slightly later breakfast and slightly earlier dinner.
Yeah, but it's like being intentional, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't want to. You gotta keep blood sugar low. Otherwise, the minute blood sugar goes up, you're gonna switch over.
Eat in the dark.
So you can't put it. If you walk past the kitchen and put a grape in your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is
you've pulled yourself
guilty
up.
Of. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the first type of the 6
that's
fasting.
My guilt. That's where I'm guilty.
Styles. The second is, I'm going to try and say this word, autophagy.
This was me about 2 months
one way of
ago.
saying it. People say either call it autophagy or autophagy. People say it different.
You can tell me I said it wrong.
I kind of landed on autophagy. I feel like autophagy is the best way to say it.
Autophagy fasting, what's that?
So autophagy fasting is about 17 hours in without food, your cells will turn within and they'll start to heal themselves. And that was what Dr. Osumi's big discovery was, is that the cells clean themselves up. So what's interesting on this one, and this is something I really want to get out to the world,
17 hours.
is that when you stimulate autophagy, what you're doing is you're turning on the intelligence inside the cell, and that intelligence is looking around and it's going, hey, there's a virus, there's a bacteria, get them out. So let's push these infections out of the cell. That mitochondria, it's not working well. We need to repair it. That endoplasmic reticulum inside here, it's lagging. We need to fix it. So it literally goes in and fixes everything inside the cell just at 17 hours.
Baby. That's your
But one of the
spot.
greatest studies I've seen in fasting was done during COVID. And it showed that if a virus comes into a cell that's in a state of autophagy, it can't replicate. Viruses have to live off of your energy system.
Let's go.
So when viruses go into a cell that's laden with glucose, they have a party in there. They love that. They munch on that, and then they go out and they start replicating. If you were in a fasted state, when a virus comes in, it can't replicate. There's nothing inside that cell for that virus to take over, and it dies.
Let's go.
Why does that happen? What's the reason for that sort of the CEO within my cells looking around and saying, right, let's clean all this stuff up?
I can't.
Well, because once you've stimulated autophagy, there is one goal for that cell, and that is survival. So everything in there is on high alert.
Okay.
Everything is going to be in your survival interest. So a virus is not in your survival interest. So it pushes it out.
So it's kind of like an emergency signal because there's not been food for a while. So it's kind of like the last attempt to do everything the body can to help you make it through this period of hunger.
That's right. Okay. You've put yourself in this state of extreme healing. And it's all based off of this idea that your body wants to stay alive.
Wow.
Okay, so are you writing in your book that that's good for balancing sex hormones and preventing colds?
So yeah, with autophagy, it's great for preventing colds. Here's what's interesting about autophagy for sex hormones is that the major part of your brain for both men and women that control all hormonal control is your hypothalamus and pituitary. That part of the brain does not have a blood-brain barrier. So it's very vulnerable to toxins. So whenever we have massive toxic exposure, that part of the brain starts to malfunction. We see this with polycystic ovarian syndrome, most common hormonal imbalance for women. Well, a lot of that is this imbalance of testosterone and estrogen, and there's a huge toxic piece that has destroyed or interfered with the part of the brain that controls hormones. So when we look at autophagy, there are certain parts of our system that are more easily influenced by autophagy than others. Well, it turns out the hypothalamus and the pituitary are easily influenced by autophagy and can repair themselves when they're in the state of autophagy. The other interesting cellular makeup that is highly influenced by autophagy are the cells around the testes and the cells around the ovaries. Those are the cells that are putting out sex hormones. And if that whole system is malfunctioning, when you go into a state of autophagy, those cells will respond and become better cells and be better at producing these hormones because of you dipping in and out of this state of autophagy.
Wow. Okay. So I don't know if any of you have ever, it's been for you or someone that you know that's trying to have babies, have kids, that the first thing that if they're overweight, the first thing the doctor makes them do is to lose the weight or to start intermittent fasting. That's a big part of what they put their new regimen on is intermittent fasting. So that's super interesting. I thought it was just to simply lose the weight, but what she's saying is to strengthen your eggs or your sperm, to strengthen your health life in general, your libido, you have to cut back on the weight and start fasting more and putting your body in a space where it can release these ketones, because those are the things that create the healthy function. So I never knew that. That's super interesting. So if anybody out there that is having trouble trying to get pregnant, or maybe have a weak sperm count, maybe your eggs aren't as healthy as they need to be, and you're looking for an answer, you don't have the money to go in and do a big IVF $15,000 treatment, I think this is something that you want to share with them, is this knowledge that to strengthen your sperm count, to strengthen your eggs, you simply just have to go into a status of fasting. And I have that 15-day program we just did. You can start that at any time. Literally, it's weaning yourself off of this schedule that you're on and trying to reset that schedule and adapt to a new healthy schedule that will get you to that space where you can get into that autophagy. So it's 15 days, and that's what gets you there. It's the kickstart to getting you to the space where you can start doing longer term fasting, but it's slowly intermittent fasting, shrinking your window. So it is intermittent fasting the whole time. The 15-day program is the start of your intermittent fasting, but it gets you to the space where you feel comfortable going for 17 to 24 hours without putting food in your mouth. It's weaning you off of your current unhealthy schedule and getting you onto something that is healthy, and it's going to be healthy for your libido, for your sex drive, for your mental, for your physical. And what she's saying is for literally your reproductive side, which is healthier eggs, healthier sperm. So if you've got cancer cells or you're on borderline diabetic, it's going to clear all of that out and get your body working in a healthier way. And if there's the flu going around, like COVID going around, all of those things, if you're in that 17-hour fasting window and you got you're producing the right amount of ketones to protect your cells and having your cells in that healthy space, you can't, the disease that brings like flu or any kind of infection or any kind of airborne thing that's going around, it can't even attack your cells because it's not able to replicate, because it's so protected by the ketones. All you have to do is stay in that keep your body doing those 17-hour fasts, and then you eat, and then going back into a 17-hour fast, it keeps them so healthy and strong, you won't even catch that infection. So that's why I dodged so many of the flu and the stuff that was going around when I was in that fasted state. 17 hours. That's all you got. That's it, you guys. No pills, no shots, no prescriptions, no extra exercising or anything like that. It's literally just 17 hours without putting food in your mouth. That's it. Pretty impressive. Like, mind-blowing. Like, absolutely mind-blowing.
That really got me thinking, because I've been looking at a lot of companies from an investment standpoint at the moment that are trying to solve for this macro decline in male testosterone. You know, I had a few guests come on this podcast and tell me that male testosterone has been declining year over year. And then kind of paired with that, we're becoming more and more sexless. Our libidos seem to be in decline. I've got a lot of close friends of mine that are taking certain hormonal supplements to try and get their libidos back up. And for the first time ever on a show called Dragon's Den in the UK, we had someone come into the den for an investment that was producing a supplement to try and get our sex drives back. Feels like a big macro conversation that we're not having. And looking at your work and the work around you've done about fasting and what you said there, it seems like there could potentially be a link between the two, the ways we're living our life and what we're eating, and our decline in testosterone and our libidos.
There's a beautiful book, I don't know if you've read it, called Countdown. And it's about the sperm counts going down across the world. And I actually brought her onto my podcast, the woman who wrote the book. And she said that there's one chemical that's reducing sperm counts more than any, and it's phthalates. And phthalates are in fragrances. They're in our colognes, they're in our perfumes, they're in our laundry detergents, they're in our air fresheners.
Phthalates?
They also are now infiltrated into our water. So they've infiltrated they're now being sprayed on our foods. Animals that are drinking the water have phthalates in them. So it's the number one toxin that's destroying testosterone levels. And it's a brilliant book that she wrote.
You talk about in the Reset Factory, your first book from 2016, chapter 10, you said something which I hadn't
even
quite...
more interesting about that is they had, so this is actually getting super creepy now. So I don't know if anybody knows about all the TikTok, controversy and TikTok and stuff like that, but that's where a lot of the teenage and the youth go to, like learning whatever is the new hottest thing or whatever. There's a lot of trends that happen on TikTok. So probably over this summer, was it this summer? Yeah, 2024, huge on TikTok was for guys, colognes. Like, go out and go into any store you can, try the cologne, spray the cologne. There's so many, get this cologne. Somebody has a whole display in their house just full of colognes. They're constantly spraying. You want the one that's got the most aromatic spray. You want to get the one with the biggest spray and spray a lot of it. So it's interesting that became a whole thing. And now the number one thing that is making guys, their sperm count weaker and less testosterone, the number one chemical that is causing that is in the colognes. So I'm not trying to do a whole conspiracy rabbit hole thing, but, just thinking. Food for thought, right? If you don't use the brain that God gave you to think on things, then you really can get yourself into quite a pickle. So here we go.
Testosterone and our libidos.
There's a beautiful book, I don't know if you've read it, called Countdown. And it's about the sperm counts going down across the world. And I actually brought her onto my podcast, the woman who wrote the book. And she said that there's one chemical that's reducing sperm counts more than any, and it's phthalates. And phthalates are in fragrances. They're in our colognes, they're in our perfumes, they're in our laundry detergents, they're in our air fresheners. They also are now infiltrated into our water. So they've infiltrated they're now being sprayed on our foods. Animals that are drinking the water have phthalates in them. So it's the number one toxin that's destroying testosterone levels.
Interesting.
And it's a brilliant book that she wrote.
The book
you
talk
talk about in the Reset
Countdown.
Factory, your first book from 2016, chapter 10. You said something which I hadn't quite appreciated. You said that even the things we put on our skin are absorbed into our body, and then they go directly into our bloodstream, and into our kidneys. I didn't think, when I read
Ooh.
that, it got me thinking, because there's so many things that I sort of unconsciously just spray on my body every day. And I never look at what's in them because I just think it's on the outside and it will wash off.
Yeah.
But now you're saying that.
Yeah. Your skin is a breathable organ. So it's going to push toxins out and it's going to take toxins in. So think about if you've ever like eaten something that didn't react well with you, you might get a rash. That's your brilliant body trying to push that toxin out.
I like that you said
But the same thing happens
body.
when you put
It
something
really
on
is.
your skin. It actually goes into your body. So a good general rule is if you aren't willing to eat it, don't put it on your skin. And beyond that, if you even look at the microbiome, you have bacteria on your skin that protect you. And that bacteria are actually talking to the bacteria in our gut. There's actually a connection between the two bacteria.
Woo, what? So the bacteria, the good bacteria that protects your skin, on the outside of your skin, is actually in communication with the bacteria inside your gut. So that's why when you eat foods that you know that, or that you're allergic to, you may know or not know, but why your outside skin may result in a rash. Because it's telling you it's connected, the outside good bacteria on your skin that protects your skin is connected to the bacteria in your gut. It's like, this information is so mind-blowing, I can't even. Like, it's so incredible. Like, I love how she's calling it your brilliant body, because it's so true. And with the whole skin cream thing, so I stopped using lotions like Bath and Body Works or any kind of Victoria's Secret lotions, and it has so many chemicals like formaldehyde and like pesticides, and it's crazy the amount of chemicals. And what she's saying is, if you're putting these on your body, they're being absorbed and going into your kidneys. So that's why so many people are also having kidney failure at young ages because of the lotions and the sprays that they're putting on their bodies, and they're not even thinking about it because you think that's your outside skin. Like with this guy who runs this podcast, he's like, I always thought it's just on your outside skin, it just washes off, but it actually is communicating with what's inside of your body. So now you're putting all of these toxins on the outside of your body that are being absorbed and going into your kidney and destroying the good cells inside of your body. So I started using castor oil and coconut oil for my lubrication for the outside of my skin, and my body has like changed tremendously with the way that it responds to keeping itself moisturized. So I just did it because I just felt like it was, I don't know, better. Like, especially people who have breakouts. Like if you have acne prone skin, or your skin is just known to be sensitive and get rashes or anything like that, the coconut oil is an anti-inflammatory. It's just a no-brainer. So is castor oil. It's really good for that stuff. And it's very lubricating and super moisturizing. And your skin loves it. And it's not damaging to anything on the inside. So, whoa, this is nuts. I did not know that the bacteria on the outside of your skin communicates to the bacteria inside your gut. That's why because I always wondered, why do people get rashes or break out in hives or whatever because of something they ate? How does what you put in your mouth affect the outside? And now I know. Learning something new every day. Let's continue on.
So if you start putting things on your skin that destroy that microbiome, you're actually going to ultimately have an adverse effect on the microbiome in your gut. So what you put on your skin is massively important. And then the smell,
crazy.
We know the hippocampus, which is the seat of Alzheimer's and dementia, is also where the olfactory nerve innervates. So when we smell something toxic and breathe something toxic in, it goes straight into the hippocampus and starts to create degeneration in those neurons that are ultimately can lead to dementia and Alzheimer's. Toxicity is a huge human problem.
Toxicity.
When
you say the word toxicity, how are you defining that? You're saying like toxic chemicals that we introduced into our lives, on our skin, consume, inhale,
like the body
have around us.
Bingo.
And that are in our foods, etc.
Yep, bingo.
What are some of the most toxic chemicals or foods or products that we consume without thinking that you think we need to stop consuming? on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, but here's the easiest one is plastics, BPA plastic. They say that it's not a matter of if you have plastic in your body, it's a matter of how much. So let's use it in context of something that people are really motivated by, which is weight loss.
What's BPA plastics?
It's a chemical within plastic that's within our water bottles. It's in our Tupperware. They actually they're saying that they're now in the microfibers of our clothes, and that's being washed out to. It gets really depressing when you start talking about toxins. It gets washed out into our oceans. So, but for the sake of simplicity, it's bottles mostly that you see, but we've got plastic containers, we've got plastic plates, we've got plastic everything, and that has BPA in it, and that is a toxin that destroys human health. And the biggest and most interesting thing that BPA plastics do is there was a study around something called an agouti mouse, and they took this mouse that had a gene for obesity. And they were twins. They fed them the same food. They gave them the same amount of exercise, but one of the mice got introduced BPA plastic. And the one that got the BPA plastic all of a sudden started to gain weight, and the hair color started to change. And that was the only difference between these two mice with the same genetic profile. And so then when they detoxed the BPA plastic out, the mouse lost weight. So that was the beginning of us understanding a term called obesogens. And obesogens are toxins that actually make us insulin resistant, actually cause us to hold on to more weight. And that's just one category of toxins.
Well, that's terrifying.
To be the center of my heart, this is why we have to educate ourselves. This is why we have to wake up. We have to understand that we are living in the most toxic time in human history. And it's not just mental stress. It's not just social media. It's a barrage of all of that is pulling us off course. And I can tell you that I have sat with some of the most brilliant doctors who are generally so concerned on the direction of humanity and where we're going because of the abundance of these toxins.
Wow.
As you said that, I could see a sadness in your face. Where does that come from?
I think it's really easy when you hear a podcast like this and what I'm saying to reject what I'm saying, because it's too overwhelming to understand what the evolutionary mismatch we're in right now.
Or people just don't want to hear it.
So many people are suffering, whether it's physical or mentally, and they don't realize that it's everything from the food to their shampoos to the plastic water bottles. It's so vast, and yet nobody's doing anything about it.
Right.
And that's where my heart hurts. It's like,
so
people are suffering that don't need to be suffering. And if they understood that the modern world we're living in has taken us so off course with our health, and we've got to start to one by one figure out how to bring it back on course. And
so true. And for those of you that just aren't joining, welcome. This is such a good podcast. This is something that you should definitely go and listen to from the beginning. It's not something shallow, just talking about your weight loss, because that's just going to be inevitable. But the healing your body part of this podcast, the information that you're getting from doctors and studies that have been going on for decades, and never straying or never becoming off course. It is tried and true. Being able to get cancer cells out of your body, being able to reverse the sign of cancer, being able to reverse the sign of diabetes and all of these just horrible illnesses, being able to just fix your levels of sperm count and testosterone, and your eggs being healthy again. Like people that are going through having issues trying to get pregnant. I mean, it's so 17 hours without eating food can get you there. 17 hours without putting food in your mouth can deter whether or not that cancer is going to become active, deter whether or not you are going to be able to produce those eggs and that sperm to create that baby and have that family that you want. is going to be able to determine whether or not your life is going to be in an uproar or not, just from putting 17 hours of fasting in your life. That's it. No pills, no shots, no gimmicky things. It is literally going back to the way that our bodies are meant to operate and be. In 17 hours without putting food in your mouth before you start feeding your body and putting all of that extra work back on it, unless you have skin and bones hanging off of you, even still, you can still 17 hours for your body, and then you're eating. It's not like you're not going to eat, but 17 hours to heal all of those things, who wouldn't want to do that? And the fact that we're been so in the dark and we haven't had platforms where people can freely speak on it. Doctors, these are all doctors that have seen the studies time and time again and are going against their own industry, their own health industry, to tell us, wake up. You guys, what you're putting in your body, the fact that our brains are 5% plastic right now because we are literally eating just trash that's in the food that we're consuming because we are not paying attention, and we're not educated enough to know. But this podcast is trying to educate people to keep your bodies working well for you from the inside out, and it doesn't take a lot of money. You know people that are trying to get up, like they're skating on diabetes right now. Send them to this podcast. If you know people that are struggling and they're thinking about, gosh, we really want to do IVF because we want to have a family, but we don't have $15,000 to do it, send them to this podcast. It is this episode right here, episode 5, is so important for people to listen to. That's why I came on and did a special edition. I watched this and was like, okay, we just had Thanksgiving. Everybody indulged a little. We just did a little 15-day kickstart right before Thanksgiving just to kind of get people in it. Send people to that 15-day kickstart that I have. Everything's free. Go do that kickstart. That is the start of intermittent fasting. It's the start of changing your habits, changing your life, changing your lifestyle. It's not a gimmick or a fad, or it's free to do. You'll actually save money in the process, and all the healing benefits that are going to get you to where you need to be is astronomical. And you're learning that right here in this podcast today. It is unbelievable. I couldn't even wait until next week to share this with you. I came on to do a special edition on a Saturday during a Thanksgiving weekend because it is so important, you guys. This topic is incredible. And I'm telling you, just listen to her talk and you will see the results. The proof is in the pudding. Don't even just listen to her talk about the facts, try it yourself. And I know if you're used to eating, you've been eating on a pattern, the way you've been eating for years, decades, whatever, your whole life, do my 15-day program. It weans you off of that in a way that is controllable for you, in a way that is able to that you're able to stick to and get your mind around. I'm not taking away carbs. I'm not taking away I do take away fried foods, but there are a lot of foods that you can eat that aren't fried. I do take away fried foods, and I do take away refined sugars. That doesn't mean that you can't eat fruits and you can't find your sugars another way. It's only 15 days, and it is getting your whole body back into a new realm. It's a kickstart to get you to where she's saying. If you got low testosterone, low libido, you haven't been, able to have that sex drive. You haven't been able to have kids. This is where you need to learn. This is where you need to be, is getting on that intermittent fasting, getting that 17 hours in. You're on the verge. Maybe you just got diagnosed with cancer and they want to give you this massive treatment. How about trying this fasting? How about trying that 17 hours a day? Each day you go from all the time that you're sleeping, 8 hours, whatever, plus the other hours to get you to the 17-hour mark before you put any food in your mouth, and let your cells be strong. It takes all those cancer cells that were forming and it kills them off and sends them to the good cells in your body and strengthens your army. It strengthens those good cells. So if you want to know how to do that, please listen to this podcast. Share it with somebody that you know is having struggles right now with any of these ailments. Inflammation, you got arthritis, you got problems walking, you got problems with your ankles, your knees, your joints, your elbows, like all the things, you guys. Even to the biggest topic, which is cancer. That is where we're at with this. And it is free for you to do. It's really just it's your mental getting around the idea of not putting any food in your mouth for 17 hours. You can include that as your sleeping time into your waking time, and do not put any food into your mouth until, if you have any of these ailments and you want to fix without going through the expenses and the damaging process of getting all of these new prescriptions that the doctors want you to be on. Wake up and listen. You have to listen to this. Hi, Ash. It's my sister. She listened to this, and that's right. Thanks, Ashley. Right? This information is unbelievable, like mind-blowing. And to know that you can change your borderline diabetic or diabetic cancer cells are forming in your body. You haven't been able to have kids forever and decades, or years, and now you're got fresh, full-bodied sperm and eggs, and you are just like able to, reproduce at any moment. These type of things, just from not putting food in your mouth, is absolutely whoa, right? Like, the way it's so mind-blowing. Don't put the food in your mouth and it's just 17 hours. It's not saying you got to go on this 5-day fast to get the cell turn. 17 hours, and it takes those cancer cells and it destroys them, and it puts them into the cells that need to strengthen, and it strengthens the body to where it can't even be reproduced, the bad cells. Like when your body's being attacked by any type of like the flu or COVID or any of those things that are going around, and they're trying to get in your body and take over the other cells and reproduce. They're so ironclad because all you did was fast for 17 hours, and you've released those ketones in your body, and now your cells are like Fort Knox locked down, and those cells end up, the cancer cells, the COVID, the flu, any of those infectious cells that are in your body have nowhere to go because they can't get into any of the cells. So they just end up shutting down and dying out and leaving your body. Boom. Mic drop, right? Can I get an amen? I mean, just from letting your body be in a fasting state for 17 hours. That's it. You're not taking a pill. You're not doing a shot. You're not taking prescriptions. You're not doing anything else, but you're not eating for 17 hours, which means your sleep time, and then maybe you don't eat until lunch. Boom. There you go. Healing your body. Let's hear what else she has to say.
Yesterday, I sat with Dr. Dale Bredesen and interviewed him on my podcast. He wrote a book called The End of Alzheimer's. And he laid out 7 things that we need to do to stop Alzheimer's. And he strongly feels that Alzheimer's is optional. You don't have to get that. And those 7 things,
oh my God,
are so intense. Like, it's everything from detoxing to metabolically switching to prioritizing sleep to human connection to understanding, what the best exercise is for you. And it's easy for humans to look at those 7 things and go, I'm out. I can't do all that. But if we want to exist on this planet, we're going to have to do that. That's the new level of health we're in right now.
Dude, I don't know if you guys have been known anybody. Like my father is, I don't know, they created this whole new thing. It's dementia. It's not Alzheimer's. They're actually going to start calling it type 3 diabetes because dementia is caused by food, which is another mind-blowing thing. Caused by food. So I don't know if you've known anybody that has Alzheimer's or dementia. My father is my hero. He's grown up. He's the strongest, smartest man. He's got 2 master's degrees in math. You have to be super smart to even get 1 master's degree there. He's got 2, and he's written a book. He's so amazing. And how could he get dementia? It was so no, this can't be. So when I started learning about it and it was food related, processed food, I was like, no freaking way. Is this man that I have grown up adoring and looking up to, my role model, my hero, and now I have to worry is he going to forget who I am? Is he going to forget my name? Is he, is he going to forget how to talk? Like my grandmother who had Alzheimer's and she only got to a point where she could clap. Like, it's so scary to watch someone that you love going through such a thing. It's really very hard because it's nothing that you felt until this point, until this moment of finding this doctor and hearing all that she had to say and how she's been silenced for so long and not able to say it. Anytime she would try to post about it, she was shut down because they don't want you to have the antidote to know how to fix things. And this is a huge industry, Alzheimer's and dementia. It's a huge part of the medical field and cancer. So why would they want out there how easy it is to fix it by fasting for 17 hours a day? That's it, literally. And how, like, it's so disruptive to learn that how corrupted we've become and allowed it because we just weren't educated enough because they weren't allowing the education out there. But for anybody that's had a family member, and in my case, I've had two, both of my grandmothers had Alzheimer's, but my father now has dementia, which is a whole new thing. And it sucks. It's horrible because it's not something that before now I felt like you can do nothing about it. You just have to go through the motions and wait for, it's such a slow burner that you're waiting for someone to slowly be mentally shut down and die is horrible. It's the most horrible thing. It's not like cancer. You can go get some treatments and, you have a better chance of survival. It's just what it is. And you just got to slowly watch the person that you've loved your whole life fade away into nothing and possibly forget you in the meantime. So it's horrible. But to know that now they're linking it to food also, like dementia, and that you can do things right now currently in your status, because they said if you have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, which is usually like later on in your life, the fact that when you're diagnosed, you've already had it for 7 to 10 years. You've already had it. And you're not diagnosed because you're not seeing the actual full-blown symptoms until later. But if you can start right now by learning and educating yourself and learning how you can reverse the process, and it's simple and it's easy and it's free, and maybe not easy because it's a fasting state, but your body gets comfortable with that. And it's free. And it's not another drug to put in your body. It's not another pill or shot to keep up with. I mean, that right there in itself, like, sign me up. What do I do? And right here, she's going to tell you. Like, that is the beauty of this podcast. Thank you guys for joining and being here. I hope that you find some knowledge. And if you have anybody going through any of these things, please do share this podcast with them because it is so filled with such amazing information that I can't even, like, it's mind-blowing. And I would start it from the beginning once I post it back up. Here you go.
And I love being the cheerleader.
I'm going to back it up a little bit.
From the food to their shampoos to the plastic water bottles. It's so vast. And yet nobody's doing anything about it. And that's where my heart hurts. It's like people are suffering that don't need to be suffering. And if they understood that the modern world we're living in has taken us so off course with our health, and we've got to start to one by one figure out how to bring it back on course. Well, and yesterday I sat with Dr. Dale Bredesen and interviewed him on my podcast. He wrote a book called The End of Alzheimer's. And he laid out 7 things that we need to do to stop Alzheimer's. And he strongly feels that Alzheimer's is optional. You don't have to get that. And those 7 things are so intense. Like, it's everything from detoxing to metabolically switching to prioritizing sleep to human connection to understanding, what the best exercise is for you. And it's easy for humans to look at those 7 things and go, I'm out. I can't do all that. But if we want to exist on this planet, we're going to have to do that. That's the new level of health we're in right now. And I love being the cheerleader. I want to be the one that's like, come on, we can do it. But I also need people to understand that where we're living as humans right now is a very, very dangerous place. And it's just in the existence of moving in and out of grocery stores and restaurants and, and the drugstore. Everything has a toxic insult on us. And it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming.
Drastic action, because we're so drastically far away from where we're supposed to be, where our ancestors were. We've built up this society that's full of plastics and toxins and alcohol and drugs and sugar everywhere. And I can't move in bloody New York City, which is where we are now, without someone offering me, almost every block is really bad food.
Horrible.
But food that tempts this certain part of my brain that maybe is looking to help me stay alive and to survive, whether it's pizza or sweets or whatever it might be. So it is difficult, and I have a great deal of empathy for anyone that's struggling.
So I heard somebody say the other day to me, they were saying something about don't give in to the immediate frill and thrill. You want to be around for the long term of it. So it's like putting your efforts into saying, yeah, of course, it's not like you're never going to eat these things again. It's just being more health conscious. Like, for instance, I love finding a place that has actual real ingredients. A lot of real Italian places that make pizza, they make it from a different type of grain. They don't use the same Americanized grain as the ones that are causing all of these effects in our bodies, right? So when I was listening to RFK talking about the food in other countries, like in Europe and other places that have such big restrictions on the type of fillers and foods that their food is so pure and clean, because you will get fined like an astronomical amount of money for if they're caught putting certain types of fillers that are harmful in their food, and B, they can shut your business down if they find that you're putting those harmful. That's what we need. We already have American food companies that are making the food for other countries, but the ones that they give to the US have all the chemicals in it that are keeping us sick and fat, obese, and unhealthy. But that same company will make the food for the same brand, same, like whatever like, for instance, mac and cheese. They'll make it with different grains, different processing. They don't put the R40 in, the red 40. They don't put the fillers. They don't put all the pesticides and all of that stuff, and their grains are different. But it's the same thing. It says mac and cheese off to Europe without all the stuff that they put in here. Same thing goes with cereals and other things like that. Pastas, they're doing it for us. They're already making it for other countries that are healthy and clean. They're just not sending it our way like that. So that part, when I discovered that, was like, I can't even. So I can't wait for the new administration coming in to tighten it up and that's one of the biggest things when RFK signed off on supporting the new president coming in and telling him, both of them coming up with a plan saying, we are going to 100% overhaul all the people that are been corrupt and taking in all of these bribes and all of this stuff to allow this stuff into our food. They're gone. All of the people that are not seeing eye to eye with the new way that they're going to be, they're gone. Anyone that is, not on board with a healthier lifestyle and healthier food for the American citizens, you're gone. So I love that that's their plan. I do 100% feel that is what it's going to be. They're not just shooting rainbows and butterflies up your yin yang. They're going to make it happen, because it's already happening in other countries with the companies that are making our food. So let's freaking go. I'm talking about. Here's the one part. Okay. Done with that rant. Let's go.
With it.
Me too.
Sorry, I missed
prioritizing sleep to human connect.
Okay, so these were the talking
And he
points.
strongly feels that Alzheimer's is optional. You don't have to get that.
This part.
And those 7 things are so intense. Like, it's everything from detoxing to metabolically switching to prioritizing sleep to human connection to understanding, what the best exercise is for you. And it's easy for humans to look at those 7 things and go, I'm out. I can't do all that. But if we want to exist on this planet, we're going to have to do that. That's the new level of health we're in right now. And I love being the cheerleader. I want to be the one that's like, come on, we can do it. But I also need people to understand that where we're living as humans right now is a very, very dangerous place. And it's just in the existence of moving in and out of grocery stores and restaurants and, and the drugstore. Everything has a toxic insult on us. And it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming.
Drastic action, because we're so drastically far away from where we're supposed to be, where our ancestors were. We've built up this society that's full of plastics and toxins and alcohol and drugs and sugar everywhere. And I can't move in bloody New York City, which is where we are now, without someone offering me, almost every block is really bad food.
Horrible.
But food that tempts the certain part of my brain that maybe is looking to help me stay alive and to survive, whether it's pizza or sweets or whatever it might be. So it is difficult, and I have a great deal of empathy for anyone that's struggling with it. Me too. It's we've hit a point where the door out of poor health is multifaceted. It's not just one door. And if you're healthy and you're just like, someone like you just wants to get in better shape, then the path is a little bit easier. But what do we do for the person that gets the cancer diagnosis? What do we do for the woman who's suicidal and going through her menopause years? Like, where are we helping her? How are we getting to them? And each time they walk into their doctor's office, they're typically getting a pill and not being taught how to live a life that works with their body in this modern world. That's where we have to get to. Quick one before we get back to this episode. Just give me 30 seconds of your time. 2 things I wanted to say. The first thing is a huge thank you for listening and tuning into the show week after week. It means the world to all of us. And this really is a dream that we absolutely never had and couldn't have imagined getting to this place. But secondly, it's a dream where we feel like we're only just getting started. And if you enjoy what we do here, please join the 24% of people who watch this channel regularly and have hit the subscribe button. It means more than I can say.
Yeah, I really do like him though.
The episode. You told me about the first 2 styles of fasting. The first one was intermittent fasting, which is 12 to 16 hours, which is good for weight loss, brain fog, that kind of thing. The second is autography.
Autophagy.
What did I say?
Autography, but I like it.
I said autophagy.
It works for me.
We can play that back. I definitely said autophagy. And if I didn't, we'll fix it with AI. Autophagy fasting, which is 17 to 72 hours, good for balancing sex hormones and preventing illness, broadly. Number 3, we haven't spoken about, gut reset fast. What's that?
So that's based off a study that came out of MIT that showed 24 hours without food and your intestinal stem cells inside your gut actually start to reboot themselves. Now, a stem cell is a cell that can go to anywhere in the body and repair itself. But at 24 hours, you get a plethora of them in your gut. And in the gut, we've got a damaged microbiome from everything that we've just been talking about. So what I discovered in this 24-hour fast is I could take women that have been on birth control pill for years, people that have been on multiple rounds of antibiotics, people who had been eating horrible food, and I could actually put them through a 24-hour fast once a week, once every couple of weeks. And these stem cells would come in there and they would start to repair. And so now if I teach that person how to eat right, their food is actually starting to build a better microbiome in the gut. So that 24-hour fast became this go-to in my clinic where I could take all these gut challenges and I could start to unwind them just because I knew the body had this capability of making these intestinal stem cells. And it was crazy. Like we got people off supplements. We got people that weren't making serotonin, which affects moods, comes from the gut. All of a sudden started to become happier. People who hadn't had bowel movements in like 3 days, all of a sudden we started to put in this gut reset, and it was like a miracle.
Wow.
It was incredible.
Number 4, fat burner fast.
So the fat burner fast is probably my favorite for those people who want to lose weight. The research was done that 36 hours.
That is so interesting. I'll back this up a little bit about the gut reset part, because I don't know about you guys, but so many people I know have such an unhealthy, bathroom regimen, if you will. Especially females that I know that go through their menstrual cycle. It really messes up the menstrual, like having the menstrual cycle, your body preparing for that really messes up the way that your digestive system is working. So that's why they make pills for, helping ladies go to the bathroom during their menstrual cycle. But I noticed, and I've always been someone who had really heavy cramping. This is for the ladies, obviously. Men don't have menstrual cycles, but I would have very heavy cramping for my menstrual cycle. When I started doing this fast, and then I went into like a 3-day fast or 24-hour or 48-hour fast, even a 36-hour fast, you don't even have to go all 48 hours. But I noticed one time it happened to fall around my menstrual cycle, and I didn't even remember that it was my cycle time because I didn't have the cramping. Normally I have like cramping, lower back pain, and I just start getting like swelling, like inflammation type of edema, just holding on water weight. I didn't have any of those symptoms. I didn't hold the water weight. I wasn't having the lower back pain. I wasn't having any of the cramping, none of that stuff. And I was being regular with, the bowel movements were regular. My gut was different. It was handling things differently. And it was all because I was in a fasted state. I was doing my fast, and it just happened to end around like being around where my menstrual cycle was. I didn't even plan it that way, but I noticed that my period came, and then I was like, wait, what? This is where all my cramps and my lower back pain and the swelling that I normally have. None of those symptoms came about, and I was like, holy crap, I bet this is because of the fasting. And exactly what she just said is 100%. That's what it is. Like, crazy. It is is it blowing y'all's mind just as much as me? Like, it's blowing my mind. All from just not putting food in your mouth. I mean, I can't. I just can't.
Sugars come down.
That's how bad the food is. Like,
4 rounds of antibiotics. People who had been eating horrible food. And I could actually...
Okay, I'm backing up. Sorry. It might be too far back.
You told me about the first 2 styles. The first one was intermittent fasting, which is 12 to 16 hours, weight loss, brain fog, that kind of thing. The second is autophagy.
Autophagy.
What did I say?
Autography, but...
Oh, no.
I said autophagy. I said autophagy. It works for me. We can play that back. I definitely...
Let's see if I can fix this.
Autophagy fasting, which is 17 to 22 hours, good for balancing sex and preventing illness.
Yeah.
Broadly.
Yeah.
Number 3, we haven't spoken about, gut reset fast.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, so that's based off a study that came out of MIT that showed 24 hours without food, and your intestinal stem cells inside your gut actually start to reboot themselves. Now, stem cell is a cell that can go to anywhere in the body and repair itself. Hours, you get a plethora of them in your gut. And in the gut, we've got damaged microbiome from everything that we've just been talking about. So what I discovered in this 24-hour fast, I could take that. I've been on birth control pill for years. People that have been on multiple rounds of antibiotics, people who had been eating horrible food. And I could actually put them through a 24-hour fast once a week, once every couple of weeks. And the stem cells would come in there and they would start to repair. And so now if I teach that person how to eat right, their food is actually starting to build a better microbiome in the gut. So that 24-hour fast became this go-to in my clinic where I could take all these gut challenges and I could start to unwind them just because I knew the body had this capability of making these intestinal stem cells. And it was crazy. Like, we got people off supplements. We got people that weren't making serotonin, which affects moods, comes from the gut. All of a sudden started to become happier. People who hadn't had bowel movements in like 3 days, all of a sudden we started to put in this gut reset, and it was like a miracle. It was incredible.
Wow.
Number 4, fat burner fast.
So the fat burner fast is probably my favorite for those people who want to lose weight. The research was done that 36 hours without food, followed by 12 hours of eating, and then another 30. They actually did it over a 30-day period, but we've been using it in our community, just dosing it in. That at 36 hours, what happens is that's enough time where the blood sugars come down, where all of a sudden the body, it's so smart. It goes, okay, blood sugar's not coming. We've been in this fasted state. We've triggered autophagy. We've brought inflammation down. We've made you ketones. We're trying to go find food, but this extra weight, it's not serving you. Because remember, you got to go find food. So it drops weight. And it's the most beautiful way to get a person to unstick any kind of weight loss resistance. But most importantly, you know where it dropped the most amount of weight from? Where does everybody want to lose weight?
Belly.
Yep. So it is I probably should have called it the belly fat burning.
Yeah, the belly fat. Yeah, that would have banged. Yeah.
But yeah, and so that's what they showed, is that actually a 36-hour fast started to unstick weight loss, and it was started with weight around the belly.
Compelling. Number 5, the dopamine reset fast.
Yes. So number 5, I found some research showing that when people go without food for 48 hours, the whole dopamine system will be rebooted. So what's important to know about the dopamine system is it is our molecule of happiness. It is the thing that it's actually a motivation molecule. And it's a neurotransmitter that allows happy thoughts to go across from neuron to neuron. And so what happens, and I'm sure you've talked about this on your podcast, that we're so dopamine saturated right now. Mm-hmm. But specifically people who are overeaters, they actually are finding, the study I quote in the book is that they found that people who had food addiction, people who had extra weight, like obese situations, they were not getting as much happiness out of their food because their dopamine receptor sites were saturated. So they had to eat more food to get more happiness. And food is a state changer. It does make us happy. So what they found is if they put them into a 48-hour fast, that they actually rebooted the whole dopamine system and new dopamine receptor sites appeared. So that when they brought food back in to the equation, they actually got more enjoyment out of food with less food.
This kind of got me thinking about a conversation I was having yesterday with some of my team here. We were talking about how it almost feels like sometimes if I've eaten sugar, I can go into a bit of a sugar cycle. And what I mean by that is I'll have some sugar and then like a couple of hours later, I'll have another craving for sugar. And then a couple of hours later, I'll have another craving for sugar. But then at other times, specifically for example, when I did keto, I did the keto diet for about 8 weeks, bloody 8 months, I wish, 8 weeks. And throughout that period, I didn't have any cravings for sugar.
Yep.
We had some chocolate come into the studio and I walked over to the chocolate and I smelt it.
Yep.
And I didn't want any of it.
Yep.
It had gone.
Yep.
But then when I'm in what I call like the sugar cycle, I'm eating sugar maybe, once or twice a day and I'm getting like the craving for it, which I just can't seem to resist.
Yep. Well, dopamine's the molecule of more. It's not the molecule of enough. So what it does is when you get sugar, you get this dopamine rush and the brain goes, whoo, love that. Give me more of that. And so it's endless. You will never be fully satisfied. It constantly wants you to come back for more and more and more. So when you start to go off of the ketogenic energy system, you're getting the same euphoria. You probably felt the same high, the same mental clarity, but you've totally taken this molecule more out of the picture. In fact, dopamine will actually, you get those receptor sites that will be repaired, but you're not getting a big dopamine buzz when you're in a ketogenic state. You're getting ketones.
I was mulling it with my team, how long I have to stay away from sugar to kind of get out of that vicious give me more cycle.
Yeah. My experience has been it's about 3 days.
3 days. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I think I said 4 or 5, but it's just from experience as well. If I haven't had sugar for 3 or 4 days, I mean like a chocolate bar, something significant in terms of sugar, then after 3 or 4 days, the craving for it seems to vanish.
So in my 15-day restart, I take sugar out, I think on day 3, refined sugars. So really what this doctor is saying, you only need to take the refined sugars out for 3 days to reset your need for sugar. I'm sorry, I know it's lagging right now. I don't know why it's doing that. But so that's good news. I was putting, 12 days without sugar. But once you're done with that, it is absolutely, your whole body changes for sure. So let's go on.
It's not, if you think about that, it's not hard if you're trying to overcome a sugar addiction.
Yeah.
Like just bear it for 3 days. And then that dopamine stops barking at you. And then if you tack fasting onto it, now you're getting ketones. And so you're not needing that as much. Ketones kill hunger. And they make you so mentally clear. They give you this euphoric feeling. So you don't have that urge to go for the sugar.
And the keto come from fasting, which is when your body switches metabolic state. Got you. The last and final fasting style, immune reset fast.
Yeah, so immune reset was built off of Dr. Walter Longo's work, and he did a study on people who had cancer and were going through chemotherapy. And one of the challenges we know about chemotherapy is that it wipes out the whole immune system. And so he wanted to see, well, what if I put somebody in a fasted state as they went through chemotherapy, would there be a difference? And what he found,
of course it's gonna do this.
3 days of fasting, the white blood cells in our system actually reboot themselves. So what they do is all old white blood cells are sloughed away and new white blood cells emerge. So people were able to come out of that chemotherapy experience and have a stronger immune system, as opposed to what we were seeing was that it was wiping the immune system out. So that launched the whole 3-day water fast sort of craze. At least here in America, we're seeing a lot of people that are just going after 3-day water fast to prime their immune system. But you also at 3 days get stem cells, full systemic stem cells. So all of a sudden your body's got surging with stem cells going to all parts of the body, repairing it. The great example I always use on this one was I had an Achilles tendon injury, and nothing was helping it. So I threw a 5-day water fast at it. On the 4th day, I felt this buzz in my Achilles tendon. I was like, oh, wonder what that is. And it stayed all the way through. I went 5 full days. And about the 5th and 6th day, so 6th day I was entering the food back in, all completely went away and it never came back. I tried everything, and that was the only thing that repaired it.
It does make, again, evolutionary sense that if our body senses we're injured because we're not eating, or, some other signal that we are on a course to not survive, to put it nicely, it does make sense that it might say about to repair what needs to be repaired.
You're getting it.
Because if I was a wounded human back on the savannah, Africa or wherever we came from, and I'm laid there and I'm not eating, my body should probably go, okay, Steve might need something fixed so that he can get back to hunting.
So you're getting it. So survival, that is the number one priority of the body. So without food, you amplify every resource it has to keep you alive. And if repairing my Achilles means I can now go hunt for food, it's going to do that. It's going to make me stronger. And in the book, when I was writing the book, I stumbled upon a really cool hypothesis that's called the thrifty gene hypothesis. And it said that it's a theory, obviously it's a hypothesis, it's a theory that the humans that evolved out of the primal days had a very specific genotype. And this genotype allowed us to metabolically flex and be stronger in a fasted state because we had to survive. And the people that didn't make it from that time period didn't have that gene. But think about this for this moment. So they think we all have this gene inside of us right now, this thrifty gene, where we can go long periods without food and we can survive. So what happens when we're eating all day? What happens when we're ignoring and we're not actually activating that genetic profile? So what they are now believing is that diabetes, metabolic syndrome, all of that is largely happening because we are going against the genetic profile that we are now seeing in humans. We're like on the opposite end of this spectrum.
We're overloading our bodies.
Yeah.
Which is meaning that the survival gene reference there is not being activated to help us.
That's right.
Wow.
Interesting. What about coffee? You know, if I'm going to fast for, I know people are so addicted to coffee, so I feel like I have to ask a question as their representative. If I'm going to fast, do any of these 6 fasts that you just mentioned, does coffee break that fast?
Yeah.
It does break it.
No, well, it depends. Okay, so this. I'm just.
I need a yes or no.
I can't give you a yes or no on it.
That's fine.
I'm going to give you most likely.
Okay.
No, let me give you most likely it's okay.
Okay, most likely it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, there's not a high degree of certainty and conviction there.
No. Let me explain myself.
Okay.
So when you drink a cup of coffee, it shouldn't spike your blood sugar.
It shouldn't.
Should not.
It doesn't.
So it shouldn't. So if you have black coffee and your blood sugar doesn't spike and you're trying to metabolically switch over into your fasting window, you're good. You're golden. Drink that black coffee.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm going to add some sugar to it. Okay, now you're not switched. Now you've pulled yourself out of a fasted state.
Okay, so no sugar, just a plain coffee with no milk or sugar in it.
Is most likely going to keep you in a fasted state.
Most likely.
Well, I've seen a few occasions where it didn't.
Okay.
This is why we have people test their blood sugar. Like it's unique to you. So you can test your blood sugar, have the cup of coffee, half an hour later, check your blood sugar again. Those numbers should be equal.
Okay, so for most people, coffee should be fine when they're fasting.
Yes.
But there's a couple of anomalies who their blood sugar does spike, which means that they're not going to switch over to the fasted state.
Yes.
If you're...
And, Coffee Mate, creamers.
Yeah.
Those can be a little more problematic. But some people put full fat cream in there with no sugar. Some people put MCT oil in there. The buttered coffee became very, very common. And that was because of the fasting movement. So the reason they did that was because when you put a fat in your coffee, you stabilize your blood sugar. And so you were able to stay in the fasted state and switch over.
I had Glucose Goddess on the podcast who, Jessie, she talks a lot about glucose spikes. And it was the first time my eyes were really open to the consequence of living a life where your glucose levels are spiking and crashing and spiking and crashing. And I've invested in this company called Zoe, where they give you a glucose, which I attached to my arm for 14 days as part of the initial test. And then they give me this big sort of nutrition plan and profile. And that was the first time I got to see, I was in America at the time. I was in LA for a couple of months. And in LA, I pulled up at a gas station. And it's funny, I was walking through this gas station and everything in there was sugar. Yeah. It's because now I was looking.
Right.
Now I had my eyes open because I'm wearing this bloody monitor.
Yeah.
So I'm about to see the impact within minutes that it has on my body. And I was just looking around thinking, oh my God, the only thing that I can see in this whole store that I can eat without spiking my glucose is water.
So is it a monitor where you can see it? You can scan it?
Yeah, so they've got 2.
Game changer.
Yeah, so they've got 2. One of them you scan. The new one they've got, it's automatic.
Yeah.
It's via Bluetooth. So it just keeps constantly updating on your phone.
I honestly think we could dramatically change the health of the world if everybody put one of those on.
Amen.
Because then what you would do is you would just go, because this is like coffee. Like it should be so simple for me just to say, yes, drink your coffee, you're fine. But your microbiome in your gut is going to determine what it does with whatever hits that. So it's going to determine your blood sugar levels. Your microbiome, my microbiome, completely different. So food no longer is a one size fits all. There's an individual approach. So you have to know what your blood sugar is doing.
Yeah.
Like when I eat, believe it or not, when I eat a grass-fed steak, my blood sugar goes down.
What?
It's amazing.
Wow.
So
I'm looking at
whereas
this right
other
now.
people eat a
Zoe?
steak and their blood sugar goes super high. And so then again, you go to a thread of this conversation, which is how do we help humanity?
Yeah.
And humanity wants the one size fits all. I can't give you that.
Yeah.
You're going to have to learn your own. You got to learn you. And something like that teaches you. But you're going to have to become very curious about you, like you are. And what's really fun to me when you put one of those things on, it's my favorite thing to do with
have
patients.
you guys heard of this
is I say,
before?
just eat normal. Just eat everything.
Yeah.
What's up,
And then every
darling?
day I have them send me their readings and we just talk it through. I just did this with a beautiful patient that I've been working with who has a long history of eating disorders. And she was counting calories and really wanted the control of being able to keep her weight where she was, where it needed to be. And I said, count calories if you want, but I just want you to stick this monitor on and let's just eat and let's see what you're doing. And she was vegan, and this isn't an anti-vegan conversation, but her spikes were up and down and up and down. Like there was like 8 of them a day, and her moods followed those spikes too. And so then we started to go, okay, well, let's add a protein here. Could we add fat here? Could we add some more fiber here? And she got to watch for herself. And within 4 weeks, she was free of any food control. And she was off teaching everybody else. It was so beautiful to watch.
Just like
That calorie
me.
counting point, though. There's a big school of thought that
I've
in order
never
to
heard
lose
of
weight and be
Zoe
healthy,
product,
all you've got to do is
glucose
count those
monitor.
calories.
Yeah. There's something called a set point. Have you heard about the set point?
Which is the amount of calories that I need to consume in order to hit my...
That's right. So we all have a set point. If you're going to go down the calorie path, you have to understand you have a set point. And the set point is there's how much calories coming in and how much calories going out. What's the delta of that? And that will keep you at whatever weight you want to be. So let's use an example. You eat 1,500 calories a day. You exercise 500. You have a delta of 1,000. So if you want to keep your weight where it's at, you always have to do 1,000 calories every single day.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what happens on the days you decide not to work out? So now you have 500 extra calories that your body's not used to. And so what does it do with those calories? It stores it. So then you all of a sudden start noticing you're gaining weight and you don't really understand why. So you're like, well, let me count. I need to restrict calories.
Yeah.
Then you start eating maybe, I have
500 less.
Yeah. And then you bring the set point down. Well, that's your new set point. You're going to have to stay at that set point now if you don't ever want to gain another pound. You see the game?
Oh, okay. So my set point is moving the crafty.
It moves because as you restrict and as food restriction goes down and energy output goes up, your set point goes down. And now you're like, I feel great. But you can't leave from that set point. You're going to always have to make sure that set point is 1,000 calories or 800 calories.
So I was told, this is the school of thought, that I have to have, for me as a male that has my weight, 2,000 calories a day. And then if I'm under 2,000 calories a day, then I'll lose weight. That's what I was told.
Yeah. So you go to 1,500 calories.
Yeah, to lose weight.
Yep. You go back up to 2,000. And for most people, they start to gain weight again.
Because my set point has moved.
Yeah.
So now it's
So your set
1,500
point you want to keep.
to maintain my weight.
Yeah. Which is why, if you think about it, have we ever seen a calorie restriction diet work long term?
No.
Right.
I haven't. Long term being the key word there.
Yeah. It's short term, it works great. But this is why I'm such a fan of metabolic switting. How about we watch blood sugar? We put a monitor like you're talking. Let's put a monitor on so that you keep your blood sugar spikes minimal. It's like what I did with this woman. Is I was like, can we have two spikes in a day, not 8? And we just keep your blood sugar at a low level so that when you're not eating, you can switch over and now you can burn fat in the fat burning energy system. So metabolic switching is where you're keeping your blood sugar at a stable place. It's not got all these spikes all over the place, so that when it starts to go down, the body is going to want to switch over, and it can start to burn fat and use that other energy system.
What do you think our relationship should be with sugar?
Well, you know, there's Americans that are metabolically healthy.
What? That is crazy. Only 12% are metabolically healthy in our country. That's mind-blowing. So, interesting enough, like what she's saying about it dropping. So, if you want to lose weight, people are eating less calories, but really she's saying if you want to maintain to keep it off, instead of dropping your calories, keep your calories at the same amount so you don't reset, and just add some walking in there or some kind of physical activity to burn those extra calories off, and don't adjust your calorie intake, because then you're going to reset your calorie balance, and when you reset, it's going to, now you're, the only way for you to maintain your weight is to stay at that new reset calorie intake, and that's not what you want. That's not attainable. That's why those calorie diets are such fads that go, up and down with your weight. But to maintain it, you keep your calories at the same place. You just have to do more physical activity, whether it's walking or rowing, or if you can't walk, doing the chair exercises, or sitting on your couch and doing some exercises, which I have videos on all of that. Doing a little more activity to burn those off instead of resetting your calories. Brilliant. A little bit more, and then I have to go because it is jumping all around here. It's driving me crazy. I'm so sorry.
That means that they have the right blood pressure, the right cholesterol, that their hemoglobin A1C, their insulin, all those metabolic markers are in balance. Only 12% of Americans have that right. That is a huge problem. And that is largely because we're addicted to sugar. So what's the consequence of poor metabolic health? Obesity, cancer, heart disease, mental health challenges. I mean, name every chronic disease on the planet at the root has a metabolic thread. Now, I hate to bring back a really traumatic topic, but during COVID, when we looked at the people that fell prey to COVID, this is no disrespect, they were metabolically unhealthy.
Right.
And the people that had less COVID symptoms were the ones that were more metabolically healthy in general. So, and largely because the virus could really replicate if you had a lot of glucose in your system. So the consequence is huge. And the health consequence, the amount of money we pay trying to help everybody health together because they're metabolically unhealthy. If we just started with metabolic health, we would change everything.
And metabolic health, people think of metabolic health often as being, I'm in good superficial shape, I'd like to think. But that's not metabolic health. I'm guessing you can be metabolically unhealthy, but also have abs.
Oh yeah. You could, this woman I was telling you about with all the spikes, she's actually a model and an actress.
Oh, wow.
That is beautiful. And we had to go back in and really work with getting her metabolically healthy. So yeah, we call it skinny fat. You look skinny on the outside, but you're dealing with excess sugar inside, putting fat around your liver, putting fat in other areas.
I think a lot of people can relate to that skinny fat concept.
Yeah. So it's a major issue. And we can look at different things like hemoglobin A1C. It's a marker in the blood. Everybody gets it tested every year when they go to their doctor. It should be under 5. If it's not under 5, what's happening is all that extra sugar is going around your red blood cells, and your red blood cells carry oxygen to your body. So they're gummed up with sugar, so they can't deliver oxygen to the brain, to your eyes, to your muscle. So you're not getting
What?
oxygenated because of the sugar just gumming up these red blood cells.
Phew.
In chapter 1 of your book, you talk about this metabolic health crisis in great detail. You share some stats which I pulled out, which I thought were terrifying. It's page 4 of what you say. According to the CDC, 41% of women and 21 and older are obese. 45% have high blood pressure. One out of two will develop cancer in their lifetimes. 1 out of 5 will develop Alzheimer's. 1 out of 9 will get type 2 diabetes. 1 out of 8 will develop a thyroid problem. And 80% of all autoimmune conditions occur in women. Why is that last one? 80% of all autoimmune conditions occur in women.
Yeah, so autoimmunity is a really interesting one. If you look at what an autoimmune condition is, it's the body attacking itself. And so when we look at where Hashimoto's, why is the body attacking the thyroid? There's something there that needs to get out. So it's usually a toxic issue. So the body's attacking the thyroid. When we look at RA in joints, there's toxins in there, body's attacking that. So it's happening more to women, largely because, well, this could go dark real fast, but largely because we have so many influences that are affecting our hormones. So the best way I can explain this is something I call the hormonal hierarchy, where our sex hormones are going to be completely thrown off by insulin. So when you get insulin resistant, your sex hormones are off. And insulin is going to be so impacted by cortisol. So when you're stressed all the time, you're going to be insulin resistant. And when you're insulin resistant, you're going to have trouble balancing estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. But at the top of the hierarchy is oxytocin. And oxytocin is that we're getting oxytocin right now just from connecting with each other, and it'll start to calm cortisol down. And then when it calms cortisol down, you can be more insulin sensitive. And be more insulin sensitive, now your sex hormones can balance better. So we need that hierarchy as women to be in balance in order for our bodies to be in balance. But what do we have women doing right now? We have poor diet, lots of stress, and our sex hormones are way off.
Sugar.
You're going after the sugar.
Yeah.
So women are perishing within this modern world more than men. So we've got to help a woman bring back more insulin sensitivity. We got to get her doing better stress management. And when we do that, now the immune system can regulate. Now the immune system can calm down and stop being so hyperactive, attacking all the toxins that are in the body. So it's very complex.
Does that imply that women and men have a different relationship with stress?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We're not, okay, so I'm gonna be as bold to say this, and I know all my feminist women out there are not gonna like this. And I was raised by a strong woman. I am a strong woman. I've raised another strong woman. And I have to tell you that we are not meant to handle the stress loads as well as men. And that's largely because of two hormones. So estrogen makes us very outward, makes us very much an extrovert, and we can handle a lot of stress when estrogen is present in our body. But progesterone, she can't handle stress at all. So progesterone will start to diminish as cortisol goes up. I always say when cortisol goes high, progesterone becomes shy. So now, I mean, the number of women since Fast Like a Girl came out that I have heard from, the 20 and 30-year-olds that have no cycle, none. That is because they're insulin resistant, they're more stressed, progesterone's not making her appearance, so there's no shed of the uterine lining. That is absolutely a stress issue. And not having a period for a woman is a major problem because that's how we detox. That's how we get these hormones out of us. So if you're not having a cycle, you're not getting rid of estrogen. You're not getting rid of so many toxins, and it's just staying inside of you. That's a major problem.
Controversial idea, but it rings true for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I know this because I've had women very close to me in my life talk to me about this exact thing, and specifically not having their menstrual cycle and then focusing on the stresses in their life and then
Comes back.
their menstrual cycle coming back. People very, very close to me, in fact, that I've struggled with because of this exact challenge.
Yep.
It is a controversial idea, though, isn't it? It's slightly problematic as an idea. Is there any scientific basis for that idea?
Well, we know based off science that when cortisol goes up, progesterone goes down.
Cortisol is the stress hormone.
Yeah. So when you're under stress, cortisol goes up. And so if let's say it's the week before your period, that's when you're supposed to have the most amount of progesterone. If it doesn't matter if you're trying to run a marathon, doesn't matter if you have a work deadline, doesn't matter if you're skimping on sleep, as long as cortisol is going up, progesterone's not going to make her appearance. And if she make her appearance, then the uterine lining won't shed. That's been proven over and over. Every hormone expert agrees, multiple studies, but women don't realize that. So if there's ever a time to mind your stress, it's the week before your period, which is why you don't fast the week before your period, because that's a bit of a stressor. It's why you shouldn't train for, a big Spartan race or a CrossFitting event or run a marathon. You should be doing more yoga and recovery the week before. Sleep the week before our periods, because we don't want cortisol up. So in an interesting world, this is sort of the vision I have for women right now, is what if there is this moment where the week before our period, we have the capability of maybe not working as hard. They're like Spain, they're giving a 3-day menstrual leave to women. And with no questions asked.
Before the period?
Well, it's no questions asked. They anticipated it that women would use it the first 3 days of her period, but a woman can use it anytime. I say use it the 3 days before your cycle is supposed to come.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
Have you shared this idea before publicly?
On several podcasts, I've talked about it. I had a great interview with Kate Northrup on my podcast, and she's an entrepreneur, and she actually maps her whole business cycle around her menstrual cycle. And so we had a beautiful conversation about this. And she said that she doesn't do as many Zoom calls. She tells the team that she's going to get off work a little bit earlier on those days. She slows everything down. Her workload goes dramatically down. And she said what ended up happening is that when her period started, her productivity went up. So see, when estrogen comes in on starting day 1, day 2 of our menstrual cycles, estrogen makes us really mentally clear, makes us very verbal. Estrogen's an incredible hormone for productivity. But if you aren't minding that back half of your cycle and you're not slowing down then you're coming into your period and you hear so many women who are like, I'm cramping, I'm bleeding a lot, it's really painful. That's because you didn't mind the back half of your cycle.
And what's the sort of evolutionary basis for all of this? Why is the body doing this? Why is the body going to give us our periods? I mean, listen, I don't have a period, but I have a version of it, right? I'm sure men have some kind of.
You guys you work off a 24-hour cycle.
Okay.
So every 15 minutes you get testosterone.
Okay.
We joke about that, right?
What do you say? You joke behind our backs.
Kind of.
What do you say?
The joke is like, if you don't like what your husband's saying, just ask him in 15 minutes. He might say something different.
Oh, that's what you've been saying.
Just letting you in on what might be going on.
Hilarious.
Okay. So what is the evolutionary basis for why that is true?
Okay. We'll dive into that more on the Tuesday's episode. I'm up on my 2 hours now, and my podcast is being a little jumpy right now anyway. So the lag is real, you guys. I hope that you found something inspirational in this. If you guys have anyone that is going through any of these issues right now, or just unhealthy in general, trying to help them live their best life from the inside out, this is where it starts, you guys. This is it. So thank you so much for tuning in today. Please do join the podcast. It is going to be aired weekly on Tuesday through Friday on my YouTube channel. You have to type in the @ symbol, Cara, Cara, Chris, Chris TV. And please do, sharing is caring. If you have anybody that you love that is going through any kind of ailment right now, trying to get pregnant, trying to lose weight, trying to get in a better mental capacity, struggling with fatigue, struggling with any type of arthritis or joint pains, neck pains, anybody that is going through testosterone issues or needs to balance their estrogen. I mean, this podcast is touches in so many bases, and we're not even all the way through it. So I might just jump in on Monday. We'll have to see. But to be up to date on when I am going to go live, please do go over to my YouTube channel and subscribe there. It's free. Otherwise, you can catch me on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Kara Christensen TV. And I really do hope to see you guys here in the next episode. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I hope to see you next time.